All right, people, as I call you, my geometry gurus. We are doing part 2 of section 2.3. I know that we're going over it in class, but just in case we don't finish it, we're going to be able to talk about it here, and you can refer back to it to help yourselves out. We only have really this one last concept to talk about for this, so this should be a short segment for you guys. The law of syllogism is the next thing we're going to talk about. Get a pen out here so we can kind of use it as a pointer. Law of syllogism is another valid form of deductive reasoning, again by process of elimination or facts or anything like that. The law allows to draw conclusions from two true conditional statements when the conclusion of one statement is the hypothesis of the other. Okay, so here's what you guys have in your guided notes as far as the law of syllogism is concerned. Remember what this symbolism stuff represents. If P, then Q, and then Q, then R are true statements, and P is true for P to R. So it's an if-then statement, okay? Or if P, then Q, and then if Q, then R, then that means that P is also true for R in this statement is a true statement. So that's called the transitive property. That's what I was thinking about the other day when I was trying to do this. So we have three scenarios, and then if the first and the second are true, and the second and third are true, that means the first and the third need to be true. So here's our scenario. If you get a job, okay, there's a scenario, that's our P. Then you will earn money, okay, that's our Q. And if you earn money, which is again is our Q, then you will buy a car, okay. So that's our R statement. So the valid conclusion is if we take the first and the third scenario and we do it as an if-then statement, if you get a job, then you will buy a car, okay. Now the big thing right here is it's important to remember that if the conclusion of the first statement is not the hypothesis of the second one, then no valid conclusion can be drawn, okay. So let's look at some examples here that we have. And I'll hopefully have this moved over enough to be able to do this, and then we'll go back up to here. So here's a law of syllogism scenario. Hopefully it comes in a little bit more clear for you guys. So determine whether each statement is a valid based on the information. If not, write invalid and explain reasoning. So there again, explain reasoning is meaning we're giving a counter example for this scenario. Okay, so here's our scenario. If you are an actor, then you enjoy musicals. So here's our situation. Here's our P scenario. If you're an actor, that's the P part. Okay, here you are an actor. Then you enjoy musicals. So there's your Q part. You enjoy musicals. If you enjoy musical, which again is our Q, then you enjoy theater productions. So then there's our R. So let P, Q, and R represent the parts of the given conditional statement. Here's our situation. Analyze the logic of the given conditional statements using the symbols. If P, then Q, and then if Q, then R, then that means P, then R is the situation here. So what we got going on here is it says both given statements. Let's go down here. It says where am I at here? It says both given statements are considered to be true because the given statements are of the form statement P, if P then Q. Statement number 2 is Q then R. Then the valid statement conclusion is that we can, by the law of syllogism, is a valid conclusion that P, if P then R. Analyze the logic of the conclusion. The conclusion is the form of from Q to R is invalid by the law of syllogism. Okay, analyze the logic of the conclusion. The conclusion is that the form Q to R Q to P, so that's the opposite, is invalid by the law of syllogism. So, if you're an actor, then you enjoy theater productions. The conclusion of P to R is valid by the law of syllogism. Okay, so this is a little bit hard to understand a little bit. And now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the next scenario, and we can talk about it in class if you want to. If you have any questions specific about it, you can go from there. Okay, looking at our last example though. Okay, down here, draw a valid conclusion from the given statements if possible. Then state whether your conclusion was drawn using the law of detachment or the law of syllogism. Now remember, the difference between law of detachment and law of syllogism is law of detachment has two scenarios, a P and a Q, whereas a law of syllogism has three scenarios, where if P then Q, if Q then R, then P to R, just like we just talked about here. Okay, so here's our situation. If you are 16 years old, then you can apply for a driver's license. Nate is 16 years old. So here's our P. You are 16 years old. Your Q, you can apply for a driver's license. Because Nate is 16 years old, satisfies the hypothesis.
Tomorrow will be an A day, periods 2, 4, 6, and 7. If you have no school business building needs, we'd like you to go home and leave the premises and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
So sorry about that. So again, because Nate is 16 years old, satisfies the hypothesis, because if you're 16 years old, because Nate is 16, it states, by the law of detachment, a valid conclusion is Nate can apply for a driver's license. So that's what we're talking about there. So law of detachment. If we had three situations in there, then that would have been closer to the law of syllogism if that's the case. So that's the biggest, easiest, fastest, and simplest way to tell the difference between the two. Okay, and then we have our last one down here we can apply it to, and we can talk about in class a little bit. The midpoint divides a segment into two congruent segments. If two segments are congruent, then their measures are equal. M is the midpoint of AB. So is this a law of detachment or law of syllogism? And if it's invalid, what are the reasons behind it? Okay. All right. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always message me, email me through either my email or through Teams to get this taken care of if you want to have any help. Or you can just wait until class time to ask. Enjoy your day, and thank you for listening and paying attention.